let's hope this recording goes without any delay. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Portland City Gym. Today we're going to be going over a deck that I affectionately refer to as Weavile and the Darkrai. Yes, that was supposed to purposely be in like a band's name type of format, but I think I kind of butchered it, but whatever. Basically, it's Dark Box. You guys know I love Dark Box, especially in Expanded, where it's actually like kind of tier 1. So anyway, um, uh, yeah, deck. Let's go. Greninja and Zoroark, of course, the main attacker of the deck. 2 copies of him. Dark Pulse for a dark and a colorless. 30 damage, 30 more for each dark energy in play. Just very, very broken attack, especially in Expanded where we have max elixirs and dark patches. Just very, very broken. And Dark Union GX, which I pretty much forget the effect to because it is that irrelevant. Don't use it. Next up, Umbreon and Darkrai GX. Black Lance, 2 dark and a colorless, 150 damage. And this attack does 60 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon EX or benched Pokemon GX. So basically is going to be 2-shotting things like Dedenne on the bench, while simultaneously 1-shotting or 2-shotting a majority of things. So that is very, very good. And meanwhile, it is pretty difficult for most other cards to 1-shot Umbreon and Darkrai. So, yeah. And then the GX attack, which is probably the best one in the deck, Dark Moon GX. 1 colorless energy, and your opponent cannot play any trainer cards from their hand during their next turn, which is a pretty strong effect. We've seen attacks like that do pretty well, such as Poltergeist, or not Poltergeist, Horror House on Gengar and Mimikyu. And this effect is really no different, except, with Horror House, it's like 1 psychic energy, which I guess is supposed to make it like more, like, I'm not sure, I don't know. I mean, 1 colorless attacks versus just like 1 insert energy here attacks just really aren't as good by nature. I guess they expected you to play Umbreon and Darkrai in a number of decks instead of just Dark decks, which makes absolutely no sense, but whatever. Kind of got nerfed there, but it's fine. But the effect is a lot stronger than Horror House, the secondary effect, where if it has 5 extra energy on it, so 6 dark energy in this case, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out on top of them not being able to play trainer cards. It's really, really tough to come back from. And since most of the cards they play are going to be, most of the cards they play from their hand are going to be trainers, they basically just can't play any cards from their hand on top of them, on top of their opponent getting knocked out. So a turn 1 going second or a turn 2 Dark Moon could be absolutely lethal. So just, it's absolutely amazing. So, yeah, and of course we can get 6 dark energy on the board onto Umbreon and Darkrai by turn 2. I don't know why I said turn 1 going second. That is impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But it is very, very strong. Don't underestimate it. So next up is 1 copy of Darkrai EX. Darkrai EX has the ability Dark Cloak. Each of your Pokemon has any dark energy attached to it, has no retreat cost. This makes it so that we really don't need to play any retreating cards like Floatstone, Switch, etc. Because we can just Weavile, Shadow Connection, move dark energy onto something, retreat, and then move it back. With Weavile and Darkrai EX, just anything has free retreat that we want. It's basically just an everyone has free retreat card, and it's pretty cool. And something exclusive to dark types, so that's pretty neat. It has an attack too, which is just a nerfed Black Lance. 2 dark and a colorless, 90 damage, and does 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Uh, yeah, like I said, just a nerfed Black Lance. Not as good. You don't really want to attack with it. Luckily, we have Greninja, Zoroark, or Umbreon and Darkrai, or Marshadow, or even Darkrai EX, or even Weavile GX to attack with, so don't worry about it. Next up, like I said, 2 copies of Darkrai GX with the Restoration ability, where when this Pokemon is in your discard pile, along with the Dark Energy, and you could put this Pokemon onto your bench with the Dark Energy attached. So like I said, again, with Weavile, it's basically just put this Pokemon on your bench. Put an energy from your discard pile to your board whenever you want, with the side effect of this being put on your bench. That's all it's being used for. It does have an attack where for 2 dark and a colorless, 130, and it's not affected by weakness or resistance, which is okay, I guess. Not bad, just to kind of like just carve through things, it's kind of like just a vanilla attack, but really, in pretty much every situation, either Dark Pulse or Black Lance are going to be better. But it's a GX attack, probably a close second to Dark Moon. Dead End, if your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by a special condition, it's KO'd. That's that simple. It really is that simple. Just Dead End. It's not Hypnotoxic Laser. Dead End. It's knocked out. It's like a Dark Moon, but easier to pull off. So if you can't really pull off the Dark Moon, it doesn't look like it's happening this game. Because, if you can't pull it off by, your second turn, there's probably no point in pulling it off anyway. Because if you knock your opponents out and they can't play any trainers, they probably have a backup attacker already set up. So, yeah, it doesn't really give you, the amount of leverage that it originally would. Of course, if you can pull off a Dark Moon, it is going to be better always. But if it's too much of an energy investment that you think is risky, then Dead End is a pretty good alternative. Next up is 1 copy of Marshadow GX. This is, I don't like to say the word auto win, but really, really big advantage over Snorlax. Snorlax, of course, kind of becoming the newest Mega Ray and expanded. Just go ahead and spam 300 damage over and over and over again. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's just Mega Ray, but 60 plus instead of 30 times. 60 plus 30 instead of 30 times. So yeah, it just spams 300 for the same energy cost. So, but yeah, it is weak to fighting. So, and 340 is kind of a difficult number for us to reach. It's definitely possible. We need 11 energy on board, hitting 360 damage, which is, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but getting 11 energy on board's pretty difficult. So, I feel like just being able to hit for fighting weakness would be a little bit better. But that's just my opinion, Then 3 copies of Shaman EX. That's just kind of like a standard for Dark Box. Ever since the first turn supporter rule was a thing, 3 Shaman. At this point, even 4 Shaman is starting to become somewhat common. So, 4 Shaman, 3 Shaman, both of those are pretty good. 2 Shaman if you're feeling risky or you really need the room. But 3 Shaman's a pretty comfortable amount. 1 copy of Dedenne because Dede Change, being able to discard your hand, has a lot of synergy with Darkrai GX, has a lot of synergy with Dark Patch. So being able to Dede Change under the right circumstances can be very, very strong. So you still play 1 copy of it for that reason. 1 copy of Sneasel from Cosmic Eclipse. This is the one with agility. For 1 dark energy, does 10. Flip a coin if heads prevent all damage. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage, done this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. So if you're like trying like really badly, you can do that. Just kind of stall for a turn. But then the reason for us playing Sneasel, Weavile GX, Shadow Connections. Um, it, it's been good since it was printed. Let's be honest here. Um, Shadow Connections, of course, just being able to move around all your dark energy. You know, put Darkrai GX on the bench for the discard pile with the dark energy. Move it to something that actually matters. You know, it's pretty good. We only play a 1-1 line because you only ever really need a 1-1 line. Um, it's handy to have. It's not necessary. Next, two copies of, transition to trainers. Two Professor Juniper, discard your hand, draw 7. Two Colress. We do play Skyfield, so we can draw, utmost of 16 cards, which is just broken, but whatever. One copy of Guzma for the Gusting, and one copy of N because Shuffle Draw is always really, really good. And you never know when you might fall behind. Sorry, I laughed there. In case you fell behind. I'm sorry. Anyway, moving on to the items. 4 copies of Quick Ball. This deck does actually prefer Quick Ball over Ultra Ball, since everything here, other than Weavile, is a basic Pokemon. But since we can still search out Weavile with it, we play 3 copies of Ultra Ball with that. Next, 4 copies of VS Seeker. VS Seeker is probably one of the best cards in Expanded. Just put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Not much explaining needs to be done there. 4 copies of Maxi Elixir. This is probably the main way you are going to just flood your board with energy as early as possible. Just Max Elixir. You know, it's really, really cool. Being able to put 5, 6, even upwards of that on your first turn is very, very crazy. For Dark Patch to side with Max Elixir, if somehow, some way, you hit every single Max Elixir, because you look at the top 6 cards of your deck, reveal basic energy, put onto one of your benched basic Pokemon. Let's say you hit every single Max Elixir, bam. Oh, and let's say they aren't prized, right? So you hit every single one, bam, that's 4 energy. Let's say you didn't prize every single let's say you didn't prize any dark patches. You played every single one somehow, right? Then with your attachment for turn, that's 9 energy on the board on the first turn. That is that's like the most that you can get. Oh, plus Darkrai GX's restoration, making it 11. Oh my god. That's almost every single energy in this deck in one turn that is possible. It's pretty wacky. Next up for items is 3 copies of Battle Compressor. Search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them, shuffle your deck afterward. Pretty standard stuff. Also, it pairs really well with Darkrai GX. And you always want to throw your supporters in the discard so you can get them back with VS Seeker. Next up is 2 copies of Hypnotoxic Laser. Laser, just there to pair with Darkrai GX's Dead End GX. And then 1 Super Rod to shuffle back in anything that might get discarded, Oh man, I discarded that Weavile GX with a Dedenne that I didn't want to discard. Well, there you go. Super Rod. Nice. Also, shuffling back in energy is kind of important sometimes too, but it's not as relevant. 1 Computer Search because the best A-Spec changed my mind. 2 Skyfield. We have a lot of Pokemon. It's not like a huge thing. It's mostly just like a luxury to us, which is why we only play 2 of it. Things like Snorlax, VMAX, it's essential for their damage output that they play for Skyfield. However, it isn't essential to us. We just have a lot of Pokemon we put on the bench. Shaymins, Dedennes, Weaviles, Darkrai's, any attackers we might need. More often than not in this deck, you're going to have a majority of these Pokemon on your bench. Maybe not the Marshadow, but I mean, other than that, most of it's going to be on the bench. So Skyfield's pretty good for that reason. And then 13 Dark Energy. We play a lot of Dark Energy because it's imperative to our damage output. Even if you prize 2, you can get 11 on the board, one-shotting everything in the game. So a few tips. First off, if you want to go for like the huge, like 360 damage, like 4 elixir, 4 dark patch, and both restorations on turn 1. If you want to go for that, don't go for that because there cannot be a serious reason why turn 1 going second that you'd need to hit 360 damage. I just don't see it, right? Also, I mean that leaves most of your Pokemon pretty vulnerable. You'd have to really spread that out, spread that energy out. And you know, if you don't have Weavile, it could be a problem. So, definitely think about that. Yeah, just don't go for like um, the huge 360 damage turn 1 play with Ninja Zoroark. Play more conservatively, you know. Play like a couple max elixirs, a couple patches, maybe like a restoration. You know, get that, and it's a pretty good turn 1. However, you don't want to burn because you don't want to burn all of your draw cards, all of your consistency cards too early. You know, if you got all 3 of your Shamans and your Dedenne and all 4 max elixirs in the discard pile and all 4 dark patches in the discard pile, all in turn 1, then when something gets knocked out, it's going to be tougher to come back. Cause, you know, it's just basically just don't explode. You don't need to explode. Just split it up into a bunch of landmines instead of a nuke. Okay. Because like I said, this deck really burns through itself. Like most expanded decks, you'll find yourself drawing through like half of your deck on the first turn, which is common. I mean, that's always nice, but make sure you always leave yourself an option. Because I find myself doing that a lot. I always accidentally, I'm like, oops, I have nothing to do next turn. If I get knocked out, oops, I guess I'm done. You know, so just don't do that. And I think you'll be all right. Anyway, thank you all for watching. And as always, this is River from the Portland City Gym. Still not editing this part out, I guess. And signing out.